Welcome back to another video. Today we have an anime review for Sword Art Online. But first I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. That way you get updates on all my newest anime reviews. Today's review contains spoilers. I assume that everyone's already seen Sword Art Online, and I feel that this is the best way to review the series because of its fast pacing. The reason why I wanted to rewatch SAO and make this review was because I felt this was a series that's become pretty popular for people to hate. Some people regard it as one of the best anime of all time, and others say it's one of the worst. Personally, I disagree with both, so in this video I'll be expressing my thoughts on both the good and the bad of the series, and if this is one of the worst series that you've ever seen, you're pretty lucky because you haven't seen Sci-Fi Harry. As we all know, Sword Art Online is an action-adventure series which follows the lives of players trapped inside of a virtual MMORPG. Our protagonist, Kirito, is an antisocial teenager whose sole enjoyment in life is playing MMORPGs. In the real world, he's a loner, but in the world of Sword Art Online, he's still an antisocial teenager, but he has a sword. Kirito is basically a mixture of the rule-bending strength of Neo from the Matrix mixed with the emotional instability of me when I play the Mass Effect series on a marathon. During his journey through this strange new world, he works hard to become one of the strongest players in the game, I think. You see, one of the major flaws with SAO is its pacing. The majority of some of the significant events take place off-screen, and we're either told about it or just left assuming that it happened in between the episodes. Sword Art Online is based off of a series of light novels. I've never read the light novels, and this isn't a review of them. This is a review of the anime itself. The pacing is a major flaw, and more happens off-screen than on-screen, and I feel that this leaves for some very convenient solutions. Most of the time when Kirito solves a problem or advances in-game, it's because of something that happened off-screen, maybe training that he did or an item that he acquired, or basically something that he learned off-screen that we never saw, and it gets to the point where as a viewer you feel that it's all random and they're just pulling stuff out of thin air. Skipping over weeks or months of tedious level grinding is one thing, but they also skip over a lot of potential character development as well. It's hard to care about any of these characters when you have, for example, a whole episode where Kirito will go on an adventure with this random girl he meets and get this item for her to revive her dead pet, when on the other hand you take 30 seconds at a time just to gloss over the time when Kirito had a friend who killed himself in game. Things like this make me feel insulted as a viewer. It's obvious that they just want to focus on the flashy combat or some of the romance scenes, but yet in the meantime they skip over some serious plot and character development. Now this angers me because Sword Art Online has all of the factors that could make it a good, well-written story and also a strong emotional experience, but they overlook so many important plot points. We could have went more in depth with the internal struggle of Kirito as he feels guilty over leaving one of his friends behind in a world where survival is a slim chance just because he is uncomfortable with social situations. We could have explored some of the internal and external struggle with some of these side characters that we learned about through the series. We have some that die in battle, we have some that kill themselves, and some just get forgotten with the progression of the story. There is so much untapped potential here, and instead of spending time developing the plot or developing these characters, what do we get? We get a few episodes where Kirito will meet this random girl who has no other purpose aside from just falling in love with him and having him turn them down, aside from that one girl that makes a sword for him, but it's mostly just pointless. There were so many better characters they could have spent their time on aside from them. And of course eventually Kirito meets his true love, Asana, which is this character that he met pretty early on in the game and then met up with way later on down the road. They experienced a few life or death situations where it was a very close call, and because of this they actually grew these romantic feelings for each other, and that's something that I feel is realistic there, because that sort of thing could happen if you're in very dangerous situations. But I felt that these two characters lacked the bond to really make you feel for them as a viewer, just because there's not enough interaction between the two to really make it count. And then I also felt that Asuna was this second Kirito that we were given, and and I understand some of Kirito's abilities. Sure, he was a beta tester and he was playing for a while, he struggles day and night working at it, but then Asuna comes in, and she's a lot stronger than any of the other players as well, but she didn't have that same edge that Kirito had, and it's really unexplained as to why she's so strong in the game. Now, I can understand them liking each other. I can understand them even getting into a relationship with each other, but getting married in under the time of 10 episodes really just doesn't seem right because there's not enough on-screen interaction between the two characters. Now, compare this to the first 10 minutes of Wolf Children. There's a relationship there that only lasts 10 minutes, and it's something that is much more believable than the romance between Asuna and Kirito, because in that 10 minutes they actually go over parts of their lives. You see them doing things together, going out on dates and stuff like that. You don't really see much of that in Sword Art Online. You see a few things, but seeing as how it's about 10 or so episodes until they're married, you would expect much more than that. On top of that, they spend a lot of time explaining the rules of the game and the rules of combat here, things you can and can't do, just to have Kirito go and undermine it and break all the rules. The combat in Sword Art Online is supposed to be based off of a skill called a sword art, leaving players restricted to bladed melee combat, but then again, Kirito can pick up a rock, charge it with his sword skill, which is not even a sword obviously, and throw it and hurt that boar in episode 1, and then there was another time where he charged up his fist and punched someone, which leads me to believe that you could have had other types of combat there, but Kirito was the only one that showcased this ability. We never saw anyone throwing knives, or throwing rocks, or even fashioning some sort of bow and arrow here, or even some sort of monk class with hand-to-hand combat. We never saw any of that, because everyone else aside from Kirito was restricted to bladed melee. Another problem with Sword Art Online is its fan service, and you know me, I have nothing against fan service except for it has a time and place, and Sword Art Online does a great job of finding the exact wrong time and wrong place for its fan service. Anytime you've seen Kirito talk to a girl, they will always switch the camera around behind her, which is a normal angle, until there's always that one shot where they take where the camera is angled so low where they really put a whole lot of detail into her butt right there on screen, and the girl will be talking about how she's mourning the death of somebody, or maybe they're talking about something that would progress the plot, some actual important dialogue here, but no, they gotta go and animate the butt and show you that right when it's some important dialogue going on. The combination of all of these flaws is apparent enough that they didn't care about creating this coherent story or developing their characters. Furthermore, the two arcs that make up this first season of Sword Art Online both ended in very anticlimactic ways. We were expecting Kirito to clear through 100 floors of this dungeon, finding strong monsters along the way, and then fighting the final boss to release everyone from this game, but halfway through it, the final boss is revealed, and before you know it, the saga of SAO is over. Each time when I watched Sword Art Online, I felt like, is this it? Is this all there is to the SAO saga, to this first arc here? I feel like there should be more episodes. I felt like that each time, like I was just missing something. And what made that final fight in the end of the SAO game worse was the false suspense we were given when both Kirito and Asuna died, and they were both just brought back just because I guess they had a good spirit or something. They were brought back while countless other, thousands of other players had died and never came back. They were given another chance. Yes, technically there was a reason for them getting their lives back, but it was all just for the reason of building this false suspense when you're watching Asuna die. And then as the Sword Art Online game comes to a close, it feels like they took about 25 to 30, maybe even 40 episodes worth of content and crammed it down into about 12, so it does feel like you're missing out on a lot. I always felt like the SAO arc should have been the entire first season, but then I thought about what the second season would be then, because they would still have to have the ALO arc, and then the second season would be about Kirito, who's playing a character, a fairy character in a world where he has this secret unrequited incestual love with his cousin. Needless to say, it wouldn't have been so popular, but I don't think that it was worth them dumbing down down the first arc of SAO just to cram that in. And with this ALO arc, I felt that it suffered from more of the same problems that we had within the first arc of the season. The pacing in ALO was a bit better, and they focused on less characters, which gave you a bit more development for the characters that you had, which still wasn't that much, but the pacing was better. In the first 12 episodes of this season, the SAO arc spanned 2 years of time, while the last 12 episodes only spanned about maybe like a week or two, so you can definitely tell there's a big difference in pacing here. That's why I feel like the first arc should have had its own season by itself. One thing I noticed about Sword Art Online, the series as a whole, is that it cannot introduce any major female character to the story unless she falls in love with Kirito, and this is just as prevalent in ALO when we're more formally introduced to Kirito's cousin, Sugu, and it almost feels like it's not so much trying to tell a comprehensive story as it is trying to create this environment for escapists to fall in love with, where you have this character that he's really shy and he's not so good with social interactions, but then again he goes into this beautiful world and escapes reality where he gains absolute strength to the power of a god practically, and then every woman falls in love with him, and it really feels like they're trying to grab the attention of these escapists more than really anything else. This proves to me that either they don't care or don't know how to develop their characters. You have Kirito. He really doesn't develop at all. He pretty much remains the same character, aside from a few instances of him being more cautious about a character's death because he remembers some of the characters that died, or some of the heroic pride that he gets from his absolute strength and being able to break all the rules. He's essentially still the same person who is emotionally unstable and will just cry at random moments. Despite Kirito's godlike strength and his ability to bend or break the rules of whatever game he's in, he still can't accomplish anything through conventional methods on his own. He always has something that's extraordinary to save him. Like, say for example, in Sword Art Online, the first arc, his life was saved twice. The first time, a monster was deleted that was just about to kill him by Yui, who is an artificial intelligence who falls in love with him as she sees him to be her father. She uses her administrative privileges to delete the monster that's about to kill Kirito, and because of this, she was deleted herself, but of course, they bring her back anyways just for convenience because they need her later on. And then also at the end of the Sword Art Online first arc, we have Kirito's death at the hands of the creator of the game, but then he just gives him life, he forgives him, he shows mercy on him, and lets him continue living. And then moving forward to ALO, he gets a lot of help from unconventional methods, and also, he really doesn't do anything for himself in ALO. Let me explain this. If you really think about it, the time that really got him noticed to the world and got him to talk to some of the more influential people in the world, such as some of the race leaders, was the time when he fought again in a duel against one of the generals of another race. Basically, he took the sword from Sugu and then broke the game's rules because there was no dual wielding skill available. He used the two swords just because to defeat him, and this gained him basically an audience with the leaders of the other races, and then he gave them a king's ransom in gold for them to buy armor for their armies, and that won him the favor of them coming to help him out later on, and that gold was illegally obtained from the game of Sword Art Online. After the game finished, he started up on ALO, and all of his stats and gold and items remained, but then again, if you think back to Sword Art Online, we didn't see him actually gain any of this gold. Did he do a lot of gold farming? We don't know because it was all off screen. So Kirito takes this massive sack full of gold that he obtained in another game, off screen in a way that we didn't even see, and gives it to them so that they will fight his battle for him. He goes into the final chamber where there's probably 10,000 enemies there, and one of Sugu's friends, who really had no little screen time whatsoever, he goes in and uses this game-breaking self-destruction black magic ability to tear a hole in the enemies, while you have this entire army of thousands come in and start fighting against them just so Kirito can pass by them. Meanwhile, he is supposedly stronger than all of them basically, but he goes through and the door that he finds is locked there. He is unable to open this door until Yui uses this card that literally dropped out of the sky there to teleport them through the door onto the the other side, and then that's when we meet the main antagonist, who was a complete asshole here, but I felt that he was very random, and it didn't really build up a whole lot of suspense with him. He was mostly the type of character that did a lot of things to piss you off at him, but he wasn't really that involved with the story itself. And then to top it all off, remnants of the mind of the creator of Sword Art Online gave Kirito his access code, allowing Kirito to have administrative properties higher than anybody else because he had the login information of the creator of the game itself. And then he leveled the playing field with our antagonist here, who was only a level 1, and of course he just slaughtered him there in a very brutal fashion. He killed this guy, and I mean, anybody could have done that. Basically, all he did was take some illegal items and trade it for favors, and then beat a level 1 player. Literally anyone could have done what he did there. You're probably asking why I'm being so hard on Sword Art Online, and that's because I felt that this was a series with a lot of potential, but it was dumbed down to these flashy moments that were just incoherent and skipping so much time of plot development, character development, and it just relied on these flashy moments to quickly grab your attention. It's apparent that they really knew what it took to make a good action, romance, drama, suspense, adventure series, but they threw it all away in hopes of just taking the moments of escalation and showing you that, hoping that you would enjoy the series because of it. And it's true, they have all of these fragments of a good story, but there's no glue to hold it all together. Now, this is my second time watching Sword Art Online, and I expected to not really enjoy it, and I went into this my second time looking for some of the issues that I might have with it, and honestly, I enjoyed my experience with Sword Art Online both times, even the second time, and I was surprised by that. Sword Art Online has many great, exciting, enjoyable action scenes. The fights are so fluid, they're so fast. You have these moments where some of the characters die, and you can feel this pit of sadness in your chest. You have some of the romantic scenes between Kirito and Asuna that they work well. You kind of feel for them at certain times, and they do feel like they grow in you, but I feel that this is something that it's all in the face value. Once you sit here and start to analyze it, then you can really understand the flaws of the series, and I feel that what really props this series up and makes so many people enjoy it is the quality of the animation. The fights were animated beautifully, and it's a very exciting series to watch, and you get caught up with all of this excitement. The characters were animated beautifully as well. They really did a great job of articulating the expressions on their faces, and if you're empathetic towards characters, if you're one of these people like me, that it's easy for you to feel with characters even if there's a small amount of story given, then yes, you can feel for them, but if you really need to see all of the development here, then you're probably not going to feel for them as much. I have no doubt in my mind that if Sword Art Online didn't have as good animation as it had, then the majority of people that like it would not like it as much, simply because the animation is what really holds it all together, because you have this pacing that leaves a lot of its development behind. Its audio was also on point. I love the openings and closings here. I felt that it had a great background music that really got you hyped up for some of these fights, or feeling suspenseful for some of these deaths. I watched this both with the English and Japanese voice acting, and I felt that the English dub was alright. It was passable, but of course, like always, the Japanese voice acting is going to be superior to that, but I would still recommend that you watch it with the English dub if you want. I mean, it's not the best out there, but it's not like you're watching the best series either. So for my overall score of Sword Art Online, I'm giving this 2 different ratings. The first rating is going to be for my overall enjoyment. My overall enjoyment of Sword Art Online was a 7.5 out of 10. However, looking at all of the details and analyzing the series, my score as a reviewer, my official review score of Sword Art Online is a 5 out of 10. Sword Art Online was a series that I enjoyed watching twice. It's very easy to get caught up in because it is a very exciting series, and I would recommend this if you just want to turn your brain off and watch some really exciting action anime. But with this, if you're somebody who likes to see a lot of character development and you need a bit more substance and depth with your series, then you might want to pass on this if you haven't seen it yet. So if you've seen Sword Art Online, then let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Thank you for all your support with the likes and comments, and be sure to check out my anime review playlist just in case you missed a few videos, and also my top 10 overrated anime. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.